Vermontijuana, and I'm telling you guys, elevate the state.
Online on Twitter, Vermontijuana writes to us.
Here we go. Hello?
This is Melissa Etheridge.
Thank you so much for taking the time to talk with me. I know you're busy with a tour and really appreciate it.
Well, I appreciate the work you're doing, so I'm glad to talk to you.
Yeah, well, it's a whole new frontier over here in Vermont. I'm trying to do everything I can to write about the issue, get people engaged, and I know your voice would have a huge effect, so I really appreciate it.
Sure, love to help.
Awesome. Before we talk about cannabis stuff, I know that you came to this through a medical perspective when you were undergoing your chemo treatments.
Mm-hmm.
One thing I thought that was really interesting that people probably don't believe is that, you've talked about how you were a very clean rock star and
Yeah.
you really weren't into drinking and drugging and anything like that. And, it was really chemo that opened your gateway to cannabis.
Yeah, it's funny because I'm always like, well, she's a rock star. And it's so funny because I did not. I mean, I would socially every now and then, but I never went out and looked for it and got it and bought it and did that sort of thing. And if it was around, it was I would absolutely participate, but it was not a regular occurrence of mine. And I didn't even. I was so concentrated on my music and that is my business that. It's like, I mean, would you go to your business drunk and stuff?
Right.
No, I'm just because others have misbehaved so badly, and they're either dead now or not around or burned out.
Yeah, I mean,
it held absolutely no sort of draw for me whatsoever to be like that. So it was hard enough being a woman, and then being a lesbian on top of that was like, look, I gotta be on my game here, or I'm gonna lose it. So
one thing that I really love that you talked about is getting over the fear. My tagline is elevate the state, and I really love especially you speaking to middle-aged women and them leading the revolution. Speaking specifically to that demographic, people who are over the age of 50, it's been a long time. How do we bring them to a conversation like a mature way?
Well, there's the enlightenment of everything that you've been told is not fully the truth. That's the first part that has to come undone, or else the beliefs are still in there that this is a gateway drug. This can lead to drug addiction. That those hooks that were put into us as children are still there, and so we need to have the responsibility to say, okay, well, look up. Well, there's not that much research. Well, do you know why there's not that much research? Because it was a Schedule I drug, and it says there's no as Schedule I drug. There's no medicinal qualities. Well, let's look at why it was. You have to kind of do the history a little bit and go, oh, okay, well, these were people who, we're not going to blame anybody now, but they were misguided. And now it has been proven in the rest of the world, in Israel, the research that's been done medicinally in Israel, they've got a whole system, a beautiful medicinal system set up for their elderly and such that it's so good. And we take a look at the research that's been done around the world, and at the very, 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 very least, this does not qualify as a Schedule I drug because there is some medicinal qualities to it. So it should be taken off that. And once it's taken off that, then we as good Americans, good law-abiding citizens, women, in their 50s who are seeing their children and this sort of issues going on, we can start to go, okay, so it has been misunderstood. This has been a medicine that has been misunderstood, that has been pushed to the side because also our paradigm led us to believe that we could find cures in pills and synthetics outside of us. And well, yes, that's gotten us a certain degree, yet it has not the cure for cancer, as you see my air quotes that I'm
right
over the phone, is we still have the same thing that we had 30 years ago. So
yeah.
nothing has changed. So that has not gone anywhere. So okay, now if you could just prop open the mind that much to go, okay, there's a possibility here that what we have learned is not the full truth. Okay, so now we've opened the door. Now it's like, okay, let's look at what we do have. We have alcohol, and well, we can see the results of that. You can feel the results of that. If you're having your couple of drinks at night or whatever, you're going to feel that in the morning, and you're not going to be well. And you can see the people, and you can see the liver damage, and you can go, okay, this is something that's legal.
Yeah, right.
And then we look at our pharmaceuticals. Okay, let's look at how many people a year die just from accidental overdoses of pharmaceuticals. Just accidentally. Okay, all right. Well, then maybe there's room for this. So it's education is the first part. Education, information. That's the bottom line here, is getting that out there.
Well, and it's interesting because I think with really elevating the LGBT Q conversation, everybody had a personal connection. Everybody had an aunt or an uncle or maybe a parent directly, and I think we're getting closer on medical. Where people do know more patients and they do understand the value. But one thing you talked about at the Cannabis Business Expo in LA was, the children, and wondering what can we do specifically? I mean, parents who have grown up, with the Nancy Reagan years and worrying about their kids getting taken away. And, for you personally, if you're comfortable sharing, how have you addressed talking about cannabis with your kids?
Actually, it's funny you brought up the LGBT thing because at the expo you heard it's so similar to that movement.
Yeah.
And it's about coming out. It's about saying, I'm a cannabis user, I'm a medicinal cannabis user, or however you want to describe yourself. And then say, and I'm and then show that if you're like, I'm a law-abiding citizen. I'm a good, I contribute. I have my job, and I can do what I do, and my family is fine. I have 4 children. I set my older kids down when they were like in about junior high, because it's when I first started getting vocal about it, and I knew that maybe someday there'd be something in the paper, and somebody would say something and come to them and they go, what? So I wanted them to understand what this was, and I talked to them about it, and they were kind of like, what? You're a drug addict? No. Let's go back, and I had to educate them.
Right.
And they each have their own relationship to this, and one was like, okay, fine, and doesn't really want much to do with it. The other's a little more curious, and to that I say, when you're 18, this can be considered. So it's just like how we would talk about cigarettes or alcohol, even though this is much better for you than cigarettes or alcohol.
Right.
Still, we can say to the rest of the world, look, this is what do you do with your prescription drugs? You put them away, and you tell your children, don't touch this. This is medicine. It's for us. I ask my little ones. They just know it. It's medicine. This is medicine. Period.
Yeah.
And it's not for you, and this is for grown-ups. Just like there's so many things. We all drive cars. We're not going to drive cars because children can't drive cars. So
right.
Why are we, making it? We can't have cannabis because children. What about the children?
Right. In 10 years' time, once a lot more normalization has happened, it will be viewed, and it's just kind of how do we help people get over that fear of this bump where you are going to have the kids who have grown up thinking this is an illegal substance, like you mentioned yours did, and having to educate them and show them, and then the other part of it, I read in a Forbes article talking about, the best way to normalize this and have kids understand it is that they don't want to do things their parents do.
Right, exactly.
If parents are using cannabis and it's not cool anymore,
it's not.
You ruin that whole thing.
Indeed. That's the easiest way to do it. Yep, make it not cool.
Exactly.
Yeah, so that's and hold it with confidence yourself. When we don't hide about it, then they don't look at us going, why are you hiding? So it's about coming out. It's about understanding the plant. It's about the more we talk about it, the more it's like just what you're doing. The more it's in the press, the more that it's out there. Just like the LGBT movement is, it normalizes it. You just keep talking about it.
I want to talk about entrepreneurship too, because I think that's such a great way that more people are getting introduced. And here on the East Coast, you don't have this breed of the cannabis entrepreneur. I see so many of them. Right, the ganjapreneur.
Yep.
So I think it's, for people here, it's still strange when you meet somebody from Colorado who's an attorney who only works on cannabis, and you say, wow, this person uses it. They're clearly smart. They know what's going on. And so I think people here, and I know groups like the Vermont Cannabis Collaborative and others are working on it, trying to figure out how do we create a healthy ecosystem. And I want to ask you, as somebody who's now also a cannabis entrepreneur, what are some of these key ingredients that you see, talking with other business people, going to expos? How can we sort of build up that ecosystem and get those advocates going?
Well, a lot of it is educating our lawmakers and educating the public. It's all about education. It's all about turning back these old paradigm lies that don't exist anymore. And so going to your city councils and show them that last month was the first time ever, and I'm sure it's not going to change, that in Colorado they collected more taxes from cannabis than they did from alcohol. That's a lot of money going into schools, going into roads. It's good for our economy.
Right, and
these are not people getting drunk. These are not people who are going to be. These are people who are going to be enjoying their music and their television and getting a good night's sleep.
Yeah, I mean, and sort of, it's, you guys are so spoiled out there having legal framework for people to come together and not feel like they're in the shadows. I'm trying to do stuff with online platforms and Reddit, but sort of how can we do more to get people together? Even now, when it's all the entrepreneurs are moving now before things are happening.
Yeah.
But sort of, have you been to meetups? Are you part of business networking groups? I mean, this stuff I'd love to tap into and replicate here.
Yeah, I'm just starting to. I'm involved in a group, a collective here in California, and I'm part of a dispensary, and we're putting together some grows, and we're really getting into this, and I'm also talking to leadership here in California, to people that are running for governor, and they want to. They see that it's coming, that legalization, like recreational legalization, is coming, especially in California, and they want to be ahead of it, to have laws that make sense to everyone, where it can be a great business, that it can be agricultural business in California, that can all help everyone.
Right, and
coming together, even on a small, in your house, having 10 people over in your house to discuss, to start formulating ideas. That's the way everything happens.
Cheese, trees, and skis. I know you've come through here at least once on tour recently. Wondering, do you think that it's going to be a good fit for us based on your experiences in Vermont?
Oh my gosh, most definitely. I think Vermont folks are very inclined to that. I think every community has an underground. There's already these underground sets of cannabis users anyway, and they don't want to be criminals,
right?
And they're nobody does, and so first of all, you got to get those people to stop acting like criminals and start saying, hey, no, this is a civil right. It is my civil right to expand my consciousness. If you're worried about me getting high, no, that's a civil right as a grown-up. I get to explore my consciousness. You can't take that away from me. That's what. So if the smoker, the user, the person can feel that inside themselves, there's a lot of power in that. I'm going, no, I'm not a loser. I'm not checking out. I'm exploring my consciousness. And in 2015, that's what we need to do to grow and become better human beings.
So I want to ask you about, the wine here in Vermont, where we're all about the beer, the wine, the cider, distilleries. I mean, I personally would love to talk to you about wine. Um, but these are the kinds of products that I think we really want to encourage. And I'm curious what the feedback has been, the experience that you've had since you've been in this space, making this awesome value added product with medicinal, therapeutic, and just fun properties. How's that world of agriculture and cannabis? Those coming together.
It's kind of blowing people's minds out here. It's still very small because we're testing and learning our boundaries and what we can do and what we can't do, and we're kind of just we're in uncharted territory, so we're kind of making it up as we go along, trying to create the rules and stay inside the rules and really understand that this is a product that does cross this boundary of this recreational yet therapeutical, and it's an incredible product, and that's for sure. That 100% across the board, every single person who has ever tried it has just sung its praises. So I feel very confident about the product itself. It's the paving the road to get it to where we want to be, and it's a long road, and that's fine. It's going to be a great, lovely journey, and someday I will sit in Vermont and have wine and some cheese and trees and skis. Hey, it's Melissa Etheridge, and I've been talking to Vermontijuana, and I'm telling you guys, elevate the state.
Online on Twitter, Vermontijuana, write to us.